The people we have in front of you today have got a lot of experience with businesses working in the online environment. You'll be able to take a whole range of bits and pieces out of this. There will be certain things that you don't really get, certain things that you don't really think are particularly relevant to you, but if you walk out of here at the end of the day with 3 or 4 really good points that you can take back into your business and use, then that's worthwhile and that's particularly valuable. In today's marketplace, the environment is changing such that if you aren't operating effectively through the use of online technologies, you aren't operating effectively. And that might not necessarily be to engage with your client base, but it can be to support the operation of your business, which is just as important. How can you do things more effectively and more efficiently internally? All of you are time poor. That's the nature of running a small and medium-sized firm. And if you can actually use technology to give yourself more time to engage with your clients, to develop your business, to make things work more effectively, then that's a valuable outcome as well. If you're able to run your business more effectively through the use of online technology, or simply understand what all the hubbub is about. There's been a huge amount of noise about the NBN and what it might do. But the NBN is just a pipe, it's nothing more. It brings information in, but what do you do with that information? How do you use it? How do you make your business more effective?
Morning all. So yes, I do come from New Zealand, so forgive me. Funnily enough, I'm actually a student of Southern Cross as well. I completed an MBA program back in the late 90s. In fact, when Stephen Kelly was just a mere senior lecturer at Southern Cross University. The interesting thing was, why did I choose Southern Cross University to do my MBA? Because I was working in corporate. I travelled a lot and I needed something where I didn't have to attend lectures every week. So Southern Cross was one of the few universities in Asia Pacific to actually offer a distance learning MBA. And interestingly enough, over the 4 years part-time, I did quite a lot of the assignments, etc., online and in airport lounges, etc. One of the best ones was the Changi Airport, airport lounge, doing an assignment on HR, and the guy sitting right next to me was actually the director for Shell in Asia Pacific. He was their HR director. So we had a wonderful conversation. But anyway, I'm going to set the scene in terms of some overall thought processes and use some examples, and then we'll drill down to the other speakers. Who's heard of the cloud? Where is it? Yeah. Who's got a smartphone? Right. So the cloud's in this room. It's around our feet. We talk about it being up there. It's here. So I'm just going to provide some observations around online business models. And when we think about online is about conducting business on the internet, or the cloud if you want to put it that way. It's not just about buying and selling. It's actually about how you run your business, how you operate your business. And of course, the cloud and online technologies actually allow you to build your whole firm infrastructure. And I'll come to an example of that later on. But at the end of the day, if you're in business, there's only 3 things that you should be trying to do. Increase your revenues, reduce your costs, or increase your efficiencies. Can anybody think of anything else apart from those that are important to business? You want more customers. Why do you want more customers? Because that's about increasing revenues. Decreasing costs, etc. And Michaela's going to have some great examples around some of the things that you can use for that. So, what to wear? Okay, so let's think of it this way. We have businesses and we have consumers and we have administration things. Now you may have heard in the past things like C2C, B2C, C2B, etc. What are those things? Think about it as 3 different stakeholder groups or communities. So the first one is consumers. We're all consumers. Whether we're buying retail or whether we're getting a service, etc., we are consumers. But we're also businesses, so we want to sell things. So here you have the B2C, so when business is selling to a consumer, or a consumer is selling or interacting with a consumer, and I'll give you some examples shortly. The bottom one, administration, it's kind of appearing now. Other things that it could be put into that slot is like government. So how does government work with consumers or citizens online? How does government work with business online? So the important thing is that if you're running a business, who are you selling to? Are you selling to another business? Are you selling to consumers? And what are you using in terms of administration, dealing with the Australian business statistics, or are you registering online, etc.? So what administrative or infrastructure tasks are you doing? Who has recently purchased something online? Okay. After you purchased that, did the company that you purchased it from, or the person that you purchased it from, follow you up? Right? Did they offer you to become involved, sign up to a newsletter or find out more about what they were doing? Right? When you think about those transactions, whether it's in a consumer to business or business to consumer or admin, etc., every little transaction or interaction point along that every little interaction along that transaction actually builds information. So Michaela's going to be talking about social media, social marketing, etc. But the key thing is that the more that you interact online, the more information you get about your customers, about their behaviours, etc., which actually helps you fine-tune your business. And when we get to the Q&A session around this, we might drill down a little bit more in terms of what you need in that area. But enough of that, the theory. Let's actually talk about some examples, right? So the first example, which I'm using from New Zealand, a thing called Trade Me. Who's heard of Trade Me? Started about 12 years ago. And basically it was a brokerage site set up by a young guy for auctions. So I think eBay. So this is the New Zealand version. People can go on, they can put a photo up of what they're selling. It could be everything from a fluffy toy to a car, to a house, to a computer, anything. Right? In fact, tradespeople even use it to actually sell their services in terms of plumbers and painters, etc. Now, so this is a consumer to consumer, so I can put up something, someone can interact with me and buy that. So this is a consumer to consumer site. Or is it? How does Trade Me make its money? How does eBay make its money? Clips the ticket. So every transaction that goes through, they clip a ticket, right? However, what have we got down here? What's the space here? It's an advertising, right? So do you think they give that advertising away free? Mm-mm. They're paying for it. Just like Google. Google's business model is advertising. Right? And rather than talking about how many customers people have, the marketing people talk about eyeballs. How many eyeballs are actually looking at the site? Because that's worth money. Business to consumer. Right? So this is selling things. Amazon obviously started out in the early 90s selling books. Now they sell all manner of things. They originally built up warehouses to actually sell the books from. And then when they got enough eyeballs, they then started getting other warehouses to connect to them. So what's their business model? It's business to consumer, but it's also business to business. Right? Because they're actually taking the books and the toys and the watches, etc., and they're a channel, they're a portal to a whole lot of different goods and services. Extremely successful, and once again we see the advertising there. Where are we? One more. Okay. Probably never heard of Zapier. Right. However, this is a good example of business to business. So Zapier actually help. You think about who's got an iPhone here? Who's got more than 2 apps on their iPhone? Who's got more than 10 apps on their iPhone? There's an app for everything. So think about all these apps that people are creating, and they're not that expensive, are they? You can walk into Westfields and you can download their app, it's free. Or you can arrive in a particular destination like, Rainbow Beach, and there's probably an app there from Rainbow Beach about what's happening, the events, etc. So it's almost like things have gone app crazy. Trouble is, how do you get these apps to all talk together? Right? How do you actually get Evernote which is a great little note-taking process. How do you actually connect that to your email system? Well, how do you get your campaigns? And Michaela's going to go through some of these individual applications. Zapier is a subscription service, and you subscribe to it. It's like $20 a month or $50 a month, depending on what you're doing. But you can actually connect all your apps together. Now, most consumers don't use it, but a lot of businesses do, because they're using apps rather than something that they've got internal in their own systems. And that's really what the point I wanted to touch on, is that the small, medium businesses in the room, but guess what? They're actually, small, medium businesses are actually the powerhouses of local economies. So let's take some examples from the Kaufman Foundation in the US, which focuses on entrepreneurialism. Over the last decade, how many new jobs has corporate America added to the US economy? Who thinks it's more than 1 million? Who thinks it's more than 500,000? Corporate America in the last decade has actually delivered 0 job growth to the US economy. Sorry?
Driving efficiency.
No, not driving efficiency. With every 3,000 people that a corporate brings on, another corporate's laying off 5,000 people. They outsourced a lot of their stuff to India. Now they're bringing some of it back. Right? All the new job growth in the US over the last decade has come from small, medium businesses. Now, the interesting thing is that this century is about small to medium businesses. Why? Because it used to be that the only way you could actually increase your revenues, reduce your costs, and increase your efficiencies was through being a vertically integrated corporate. So everything was there. You had to have the building, you had to have the administration staff, and they were all in the same building. Right? Why? Because then they could talk to each other and they could walk across to manufacturing, etc. What's happening now is obviously those value chains like a laptop. So how many different suppliers do you think it takes to actually build one Dell laptop? More than 50? More than 100? 327 different suppliers supply bits and pieces to build one laptop. So imagine how that's integrated. The cool thing is that for small, medium businesses, you can actually be part of that process. It's not just about manufacturing large items. So it's the role of small, medium businesses, and the cloud actually helps us compete in that space. Why? Because the stuff that used to cost thousands or millions of dollars to do, in terms of IT systems, etc., we can now own for $50 a month or $200 a month. And I'll use a tangible example. So, as I said, I was in corporate life up until 2002. I used to work for a professional services company called Capgemini, Ernst & Young, here in Asia Pacific. So I was the director for mobility. So we were doing things on phones and data and all that sort of stuff. Living in New Zealand, working across Asia Pacific and reporting to France. So in 2002, I decided to step out of corporate life and actually practice what I preach and start up my own business. So I started up Agatavi, which is a research company. And the key thing around being a small business, a small startup business, is who's your customers and what are you going to be famous for? Now, through some research and some experience and some contacts, I knew that one of our key customers of what we did for the research around software companies and small, medium businesses was actually Microsoft. So you can imagine the conversation. Hi, I've just started a company in New Zealand and I'd like to work with you, Microsoft, globally. Kind of doesn't work. It's all about positioning, so what are you going to be famous for? So we looked at how do we actually set up a business. So we looked at offices in downtown Auckland, and that was going to cost us $1,200 a month, just the office. Then we had to go and buy the chairs and get some staff on, all that sort of stuff. However, Regis, which is a serviced office company, had just launched their new virtual offering. It was Virtual Office. And for $1,150 a month, we set up an office in Singapore, and an office in Seattle, an office in Paris, and an office in Prague. Right? Someone, if you phoned a number in those countries, you would get, "Good morning, Agatavi. Oh, could I speak to someone about X, Y, and Z? I'm afraid he's out at the moment, but I'll get him to call you back," and they'd send me an email. The first contract that we got from Microsoft, because we were targeting a particular thing, came because they'd heard we'd done something in Asia Pacific, and the guy in the US looked us up on the web, right? Oh, they've got an office in Seattle. Well, we're here in Seattle as Microsoft. I'll give them a call. Blah, yes, he'll call you right back. Call them right back. They didn't know that that email actually went all the way down to little old New Zealand, and I phoned them from there. Long story short, between 2002 and 2009, Agatavi worked with Microsoft across 33 countries, delivering some stuff for software companies and how to work. In fact, part of that was actually with Southern Cross University. Thank you. And from that point on, I haven't had an office in an office building. I've been virtual. Michaela, I started working with her about 5 years ago. We've met how many times now face to face? Five times in 5 years. How often do we talk? Daily? Nearly every day. I've got an office at home in Auckland. I spend the rest of the time on my plane. And what's the name of the little posse? Torval. Who knows Torval? No? It's north of Brisbane, right?
It's near Bribie Island.
Near Bribie Island. Lovely little place on the estuary, and Michaela's husband specialises in chili crab. Right? So don't think that the cloud is enabling the corporates. It is to a certain extent, but what it's really doing is enabling the small, medium businesses. We can compete, all right, in a global market as long as we know what we want to be famous for and who our target customers are. You can be born global. What are you going to be famous for? Your laser focus. How do you position in the marketplace? And you can position in the marketplace by your website, your messaging, etc. And the support processes. So how do you interact? How do you interact with suppliers? Now, how many here use subcontractors rather than employees in their business? So, could I ask, where do you get your subcontractors for? Are they local through the networks, people you know?
Through people I know.
Through people you know, okay. Does anybody use subcontractors online? Freelancer?
Yep.
Right. Who's heard of Freelancer? Who's heard of Elance? Who's heard of Odesk? All things that have lots and lots of contractors who are doing very specific things that you can use online. Now, is it a good experience every time? I've had some disasters, right? However, the interesting thing is that when you interact with people online, there's a certain trust element that you have to build up. And if they're specialists and professionals and they know how to work online, it's usually a good thing, right? If they're just throwing their profile up and they're going, oh yes, we can provide that service, but we can do it for $3 an hour rather than $25 an hour, then usually that's a sign that things aren't going to go that well. The other problem that small medium businesses have in operating on the cloud and operating under these subcontractor models is that typically we don't have the processes in place or the thinking in place in terms of how to manage project. What are the key things that you need to do in project management? And it's not about using the technology, it's about managing the customer, managing the contractors, managing the timeline, etc. But luckily, there's a whole lot of stuff online around how you can actually manage projects, how to use subcontractors, how to use marketing professionals, etc., etc. So even though the internet or the cloud causes this problem in terms of how do you build trust, how do you build collaboration, it also helps support it. And Steve mentioned earlier around, the universities are now competing with, things like Kaplan and Harvard, etc. What's Harvard done? Basically put all its courseware up online. You can get it free. There's an online website called Coursera, which is a whole lot of different things that universities do that you can go and sign up for basically free and do the course. Now, why would universities put all their really important and really intellectual property content up online? Because it's a commodity, right? Then you step into their particular university or institution to get your degree, to get your MBA, etc., because they're the ones that still are the only ones that actually give you that. So you can get the knowledge. If you just want the knowledge to run your business, there's lots out there. If you want an MBA or a PhD or something to run your business, then you have to become a student, etc. So they're driving demand. Anyway, software and services. Now, in the old days, it was you bought a piece of software, it came on a CD. You had to buy it for, actually let's use Microsoft Office for example. If you wanted the home version of Microsoft Office, it was $300-400 or something like that. But of course, Microsoft has now put Office online, right? So you can use it online, Office 365, etc. And it costs $40 per user per month. So people go, well, if I use it for 12 months, it's actually going to cost me more than actually, buying the CD. But think about it. Then you've actually got to purchase upgrades or get new stuff. How do you actually get the upgrades or the updates comes down from the web? How do you interact, etc. So there's very much a move to activity-based costing. Right? So it used to be that software was a capital item. So you purchased your software and you depreciated it, etc. Now, and that used to come off your capital line, right? Of your overheads line. Now you can actually say, well, if I've got 10 users and they're $40 a month, it's actually a cost, it's an expense. Of course, there's other things that come into that equation as well. So if you're subscribing to software and just using it, you can turn it on and off depending on how big or small your business is, then it actually allows you to scale your purchases, right, and cash flow. How many people here are selling products, making and selling products? And how many here are providing a service? Excellent. Do you know that 80% of the economy in Australia is actually services based? No surprise there. So how do you use the cloud for service? So who interacts with their service clients through their website? What do you do, sir?
I'm a publisher.
Publisher. Excellent.
Photographer.
Publisher photographer. So what's one of your biggest challenges?
Increasing our rankings on the website with about 130 other Byron-made websites.
You want to increase your ranking in what?
Getting up on the page one of Byron.
Right. Okay.
Is our biggest challenge.
Right. So eyeballs. So you're after eyeballs.
Yes.
Excellent. Your business.
I have a tour operator which operates out of India.
Okay. And you're the agent for them here in?
No, I live in India mostly. And,
Oh, okay.
And then I have agents here.
Right.
So it's a competitor. But my challenge is to get around social media, which I have Facebook and websites, but it's kind of keeping up to date with what's going on.
Okay.
I feel like I'm lagging behind all the time. But I get my business through the internet also.
Right, okay.
Because I have a specialist travel business.
So how many people here actually around this question of social media? How does it work, etc.? Is that why you've walked through the door?
Well, it's getting the most out of it.
How do you get so hands up who want to get the most out of social media? And hands up those people who want to get the most out of their website. Good point, yeah, it's a trick question. How many of you here use LinkedIn? Wow. How many use LinkedIn more than they use Facebook? So the stuff that we're talking about here today is kind of overview, and there's a bit of details that Mikhail will go through, etc. What we want to do is find out what are the critical things for you. And then the next one of these that we run in 90 days' time, we can drill down on specific things. So and this is why we need to get this interaction going. So social media metrics. So increase email marketing. So cloud, backup. So you've got a good following in your traditional market. How do you break on into a new market online, using online? Defining and building new markets. Okay? New markets. Now, little segue, and then we'll come back to your question. There was an interesting project done in Ireland with an organisation called dunnhumby, which they do analytics around wholesale, and their customers are the large supermarket chains. So they aggregate all the data from all the sales of the supermarkets, analyse that, and then sell it back to the supermarkets and say, here's what's trending this week, toilet paper, where soap was doing it last week. What they did with the Irish government was actually work with a set of analysts and researchers to look at the trends for organic meats, small producers that are in Northern Ireland, so that they could better understand what the consumers wanted from these new niche suppliers. So that's free-range pork, but what sort of free-range pork? Is it a chop? Is it a steak? Etc. And how do they like the packaging, etc. Does that also touch on your new market, actually defining what the new markets want through better understanding customer intelligence? Customer intelligence, okay. Now, so you employ someone to do your social media, but you haven't got a strategy around what that person who's doing your social media should actually be doing to convert it to dollars for your business. So social media strategy. Yes, social media strategy. If we don't address the topic that you're interested in today, we will make sure that we address it within the next 90 days, next 180 days, etc., ongoing. When I was doing the work with the technology companies, small, medium technology companies around the world, so 33 countries, these were small businesses. These were like one man, two men, a couple of girls and a guy businesses, up to probably 250 people. So they were small, medium businesses in the technology area. Long story short, if you took those, and we did the research, which is what Agatavi was all about, of all those businesses across all those countries, number one issue is they didn't have a strategy. Right? So 2/3 of those businesses had no strategy at all. They were completely reactive to the market, and probably their biggest sales proposition was, we're cheap. Right? You don't have to pay us because pay us what you paid Deloitte's or IBM or whatever. So that was the competitive strategy. They didn't have one. Of the third that was left that had a competitive strategy, it dropped into three areas. They either have a defined customer market, right? We are targeting that segment. They had a defined product or service that they delivered, or they were low-cost innovators. Right? Now, didn't mean that they were the cheapest. It meant that they were the most effective at producing that product or service for the market. Now, when you become proactive and you define, it's either a customer segment we're going after, we've got a particular product, or we've got a particular competitive advantage and efficiency, that then informs your other strategies. So I guess I'd throw back to the group the question, how many of you actually have a defined business strategy which has, these are our customers, right? This is what their needs are, this is how we fulfill those needs, right? And this is what we're famous for. So how many have you have that written down in your organisation? Right, so probably less than a third. Right? So yes, there is an answer to your question, but the first question is, what's your strategy? So how many people here as small, medium businesses actually struggle with, forget about social media and online and cloud, with how do I develop the strategy for my business? And I'm going to put that in a little box down here.